A while back, my mom invited me to a quick dinner with the family. When I got there, she pointed to a back table. "You can sit over there," she said. "We need this space for the main group." I just nodded, ordered a drink, and handed my card to the waiter. Then I went to the host and said, "Put everything on that table on their bill." About 20 minutes later, I heard my dad yell, "Why is this bill over $1,700? I have to be honest, I felt awkward even before I walked into the restaurant. It was that kind of awkward where you can sense something's not right, but you can't put your finger on it. My gut was telling me this wasn't just a regular dinner. It was something more. But as I always did, I just shook it off. It was just a family dinner. How bad could it really be? My mom had texted me a few days before, "Quick family dinner this Saturday. Nothing big." I hesitated before I replied. The last time we all got together, I ended up paying the entire check, almost $900. No one even acknowledged it. My dad had said something like, "Good thing Olivia doesn't have any kids to feed." And they all laughed like it was the funniest joke. I didn't laugh. I told them I would help if they ever needed it, but I meant it as a gesture, not an obligation. Still, I hadn't seen them in 2 months, and sometimes guilt wins. So I said yes. When I arrived at the restaurant, I saw them immediately. They were all sitting at a long table by the window. My dad was telling jokes, my aunt was sipping wine, and my twin brother was taking selfies with my mom. The only one not there was me. Or maybe I wasn't meant to be. I walked over and gave a small wave. My mom turned around, smiled, and pointed behind her as if she were assigning me a seat on a bus. "You can sit there," she said. "We need this space for the main group." I froze. She said it without even a flicker of hesitation, then turned back, around as if she had just ordered a bowl of soup. I didn't say a word. I looked at the dimly lit, empty table in the corner, tucked between the kitchen and the bathrooms, and walked toward it. Fine, if they want to treat me like a side dish, I'll act like one. I ordered an old-fashioned and gave the waiter a nod, pretending everything was fine. Then I called him over again, slid my card across the table, and said just loud enough, "Everything for that other table. Put it on their bill. Mine is just this one drink." He blinked once. I smiled. "Did you get that?" I asked. He nodded. I think he was looking forward to it. For the next 25 minutes, it was like watching a circus. They were laughing, toasting, and ordering everything. On the menu, my uncle got the ribeye. My brother had 2 different appetizers. My dad ordered a $130 bottle of wine and poured it like it was soda. My mom kept calling the waiter over as if he were her personal butler. They had no idea. I waited. I sipped my drink. I enjoyed every single second of it. Then it happened. From across the room, I heard my dad's voice erupt like a volcano. "Why is this over?" Everyone at their table turned to look. My aunt leaned in, confused. My brother's phone froze mid-selfie. I stood up and walked over as if it were just time to say goodbye. "I paid for everything," I said casually, even left a tip. My dad's face lit up. My mom gave me the warmest smile I had seen from her in years. They all looked at me as if I had just paid off their mortgage. I waved and walked away. Simple. What they didn't know was that the waiter was still following my instructions. I had told him to bring the real bill to them after I left. I hadn't even made it to the parking lot before I heard shouting from the hallway. "Wait, what? She only paid for her drink. Olivia." I got in my car and drove off before anyone could catch me. The air had never felt so clean. The next morning, I heard a knock on my door. My mom and dad stood there with tired expressions. My dad walked right in, without a greeting. It came out to $2,000, he said. They had shown up at 9:12 a.m. with no warning, just 2 sharp knocks. My dad came into my apartment as if he owned it, with my mom trailing behind, quieter than usual. As if she already knew this wouldn't end well. He dropped the receipt on my kitchen counter like it was evidence in a courtroom. $2,000, he said. No, good morning. No, how are you? Just the number. I looked at the receipt but didn't touch it. I paid for my drink, I said. That's when the real spectacle began. He started pacing, working himself into a rage, throwing out phrases like, "We raised you better. This is low. And you embarrassed us." He even made a point that my uncle had to cover the tip. He made it sound like I had burned their house down. My mom only spoke when he paused to catch his breath. "Olivia, we just thought you'd help," she said. Help? That was the word they always fell back on. Help me pay for everything. Help me by sitting at a side table like a forgotten relative. Help me by staying quiet so everyone else could have a good time. I just listened. I let them talk for over an hour, barely saying a word. When they were finished, I said, "You're angry because I treated you exactly the way you treated me." That stopped him for a moment, but he didn't reply. He just turned and stormed out, my mom following behind him. I thought it was over. 10 minutes later, I heard a loud crack from outside. I ran to the window and saw my dad jogging back to his car with my mom already in the passenger seat. My driver's side car window was shattered. Glass was everywhere, and a rock sat on the seat. They didn't wait. They drove away as if nothing had happened. I just stood there, staring at the mess. I didn't scream or chase after them. I went back. Inside, opened my laptop and pulled up the security camera footage I had installed last fall after a package was stolen. There it was, clear as day, my dad walking up to the car, looking around, picking up a rock and throwing it straight through my window. I saved the footage, then filed a police report. I told the officer everything and gave him the video. He asked if I wanted to press charges or just seek compensation. I said I wanted every single cent back. That broken window wasn't just an act of vandalism, it was a message. And my response was my own message. By the end of the week, he had paid $420 out of pocket. No insurance, no excuses. He paid, but I wasn't done. I wasn't done. I opened my banking app and looked at the shared account labeled Family Expenses. For 9 months, I've been putting $2,000 into it every month. It started when they claimed they were struggling with repairs, bills, and groceries. I had agreed to help temporarily, thinking we were all in it together. But I started noticing strange things, sudden shopping sprees, my brother posting from new cafes, and Uber rides to beach parties. All the while, I was being told that every dollar was helping keep the family afloat. I shut it down, locked the account, reset the passwords, removed all link transfers, and left it at 0. 3 days later, my phone exploded. I had 15 missed calls from my mom and 6 from my dad. Even my aunt texted saying there must be a mistake. My brother's message was just one line. "What the hell, Olivia?" I ignored them all. About a week. Later, they showed up again, acting as if nothing had happened. They were all smiles this time. My dad actually hugged me at the door, and my mom brought a box of pastries. They sat on my couch and talked about forgiveness, unity, and starting over. My brother wasn't there, but his name came up a few times. "We've all had a rough patch," my mom said. "Let's just move forward as a family." We're thinking, my dad added, maybe we could all go out again. Just have a nice evening. I nodded, smiled, and said, "That sounds great." They left feeling like they had one. They thought a few kind words, some pastries, and a hug were enough to make everything okay and turn us back into a family. What they wanted, so I let them believe it. When they suggested we go out to dinner to reconnect, I agreed right away. I even chose the place myself, somewhere expensive with low-hanging chandeliers that practically whispered in your ear. Called ahead to make sure we got a private table. It had to feel authentic. On Saturday night, I arrived 10 minutes early, dressed as if I didn't have a care in the world. White blouse, a nice watch, and a ready smile. They all showed up together, dressed up more than usual. My mom looked pleased. My dad even laughed when he saw the place. "Let's not have a repeat of last time, huh?" he said, nudging me with his elbow. I smiled and said, "No way." We sat down and ordered wine. They seemed relaxed, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. My mom even said she felt like this was a turning point. My aunt nodded throughout the meal as if she had just come from a therapy session. My brother barely looked up from his phone, except to roll his eyes at the waiter. Everything was going exactly as I had planned. They didn't hold back. They ordered appetizers as if they were royalty, steaks, seafood towers, and 2 bottles of wine. My dad made 2 toasts, both vague and self-congratulatory. My mom kept glancing at me as if she wanted to say she was proud but couldn't find the words. I sat through the whole thing like a professional actor. Towards the end, I checked my phone, stood up calmly, and said, "My girlfriend is calling. I'll be right back." I walked past the restrooms, through the hallway, nodded at the waiter who had the check, and went out the side door. I got in my car and drove off. I didn't need to be there to know how it would unfold. 10 minutes later, the waiter would bring the check to their table. I knew what the total would be, $1,470 before tip. I also knew exactly how my dad would react. First, a joke, then his smile would vanish. My mom would ask the waiter if there had been a mistake. My brother would accuse someone of playing a prank. Then the reality would sink in, and by then I would be long gone. By the time I got home, I had 40 missed calls and 4 voicemails. The first was calm. The second was louder. The last 2 were just yelling and heavy breathing in the background. My brother sent a flurry of texts, cycling from threats to begging to insults and back again. Then came the knock. It's time. They didn't wait a day. An hour later, my dad, mom, and brother were at my door. No smiles, no pastries, no fake warmth. "You humiliated us," my dad said again. "You've crossed the line," my mom added, her voice trembling. My brother took over the conversation, calling me pathetic, accusing me of holding a grudge, and saying I didn't understand what family meant. I sat there quietly, letting them think they had the upper hand. Then I looked at my brother and asked a simple question. "Who do you think has been paying for your tuition?" He froze. My mom and dad looked at each other, confused. $30,000 a year, I said. 4 semesters, covered quietly. You're welcome. There was dead silence. My dad tried to speak, but this time I didn't let him. "You want to talk about crossing lines? That ends today. The account is closed. You want him to finish school? You figure it out." My brother looked like he wanted to scream, but didn't know who to be mad at. I leaned back and let the moment hang in the air. "You manipulated us," my mom said, barely loud enough to hear. "No," I replied. "I just learned from the best." They stayed another 20 minutes trying to negotiate, twist the situation around, and make me the villain. At one point, my aunt called in the middle of it, probably trying to mediate. I let it ring. Before they left, my dad said, "This isn't over." I nodded. I know, that night I didn't feel angry. I felt clear after that last dinner. The calls didn't stop. I ignored them. 40 missed calls in one night became 70 over a weekend. Then they started texting as if nothing had happened. My mom sent a message Monday morning. "Let's move past all this. We love you." My dad followed up with, "We're still a family. We need to act like it. Need to." It didn't take long for the tone to change. By Tuesday, the messages were different. "You're hurting everyone. You're being selfish," and my personal favorite from my aunt, "Olivia, don't let money define you." As if they hadn't already done that for me. Then my brother called. He didn't apologize or even ask how I was. He just asked if I had fixed the tuition issue yet. I said no. He hung up. An hour later, I got a long email from my mom. It was supposed to be heartfelt, I guess. But halfway through, she wrote something that made my jaw clench. "We've sacrificed so much for you. You owe it to us not to walk away now." Sacrificed. That word echoed in my mind for days. I kept thinking about the months I had been paying into that shared account $2,000 a month. No questions asked. They claimed it was for groceries, house repairs, and utility bills. But I had access to the records, and I had quietly taken screenshots. Of the outgoing transactions, it wasn't just for groceries. It was for salon visits, spa days, and car detailing. My brother had taken out $400 one week, labeled campus emergency, which turned out to be for a concert, so I waited. Then on a Friday night, I sent a group message to all of them: mom, dad, aunt, uncle, and my brother. It had 3 photos attached: a screenshot of the shared account's transaction history, a screenshot of my total contributions, and a picture of a handwritten note my dad had left me last year that said, "We're proud of you. You take care of us better than we deserve." No message, just those 3 images. They didn't reply right away, but I knew they had seen it. The next morning, I got a visit, but not from my parents. It was my cousin Ashley. She stood on my porch with 2 coffees, looking like she had just escaped a fire. "They've been telling everyone you're having a breakdown," she said. "That you're paranoid and trying to punish the family." My mom had tried to convince her that I was emotionally unstable, but Ashley had seen the account history. She knew what they were doing. Didn't say much. Ashley wasn't one to mince words. We talked for about an hour. Then she said something that stayed with me. "They don't see you as a person anymore, just a function. You stopped paying, and now they don't know how to act." That was a surprise. I wasn't prepared for it, not just that they used me, but that they never thought it was wrong. They felt entitled to it. Later that evening, my mom sent me a message. "We want to fix this. Let's all meet for one dinner. No drama. Your father says he's willing to let everything go if you just come." Let everything go. As if he was the one offering mercy. I told her I'd think about it. "I won't be going." I started packing the night I received my mom's message. One dinner, no drama. "Your father says he's willing to let everything go if you just come." That sentence played on a loop in my head as I filled cardboard boxes with my life. My apartment wasn't huge, but it held a lot. Photos I no longer looked at, clothes I no longer wore, reminders of a family that had turned my loyalty into currency. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I didn't owe them a goodbye. Think they hadn't earned it. 3 days later, I signed the lease on a new place a few hundred miles away, in a different state. It was a small city with a quieter pace, where no one knew my name. It felt clean, like starting a new chapter without rereading the last paragraph. But before I left, I made one final move. I logged into my brother's college tuition payment system and officially canceled all pending contributions, marking myself as no longer responsible. Then I completely removed my name. A day later, my cousin Ashley sent me another screenshot. It was a message from my brother in the family group chat. "Why is my tuition unpaid? I just got a warning from the administration. They're saying I'll be dropped from next semester if it's not fixed this week." My mom replied, "Olivia must have done something." My dad added, "She's doing this for revenge. Let her have her little win. We'll figure it out." But I knew they couldn't figure it out. I had also cut off their backup source of money, the $12,000 emergency fund I had secretly filled for them when my dad asked for a temporary loan last year. It was now in my private account, legally mine. And I knew something else they didn't. The new SUV they bought last spring was partially financed through the same account I had been funding every month. Without my contributions, the numbers just didn't work anymore. The $30,000 a year in tuition, the $900 a month for insurance, and gas, the house repairs, their new lifestyle all depended on me until it didn't. When I left town, I took only what I needed. The rest I donated, threw away, or sold. My new apartment is smaller and cleaner. It's entirely mine. I changed my number, but I kept my old phone for one reason: to watch the missed calls pile up. They called from new numbers, sent emails, and even mailed a handwritten letter asking me to reconsider for the sake of the family. Then came a twist I didn't expect. A message from my aunt. They're thinking of taking legal action if you don't resume support. Legal action. I laughed out loud in my new kitchen. There was no contract, no agreement, just their entitlement turning into desperation. Then silence. That was a week ago. Now I sit here watching the sunset over a city they will never find me in. Thinking about how long it took me to finally choose peace. They turned me into a provider, and now they have to live without one. It's been 3 months without forced dinners, fake apologies, or guilt disguised as love. I wake up now without checking my phone, without wondering what kind of manipulation is waiting for me in my inbox. The silence is beautiful, and so is the freedom. I settled in faster than I expected. New apartment, new job, a new coffee shop down the street that already knows my order. I've even started dating someone. Nothing serious yet, but it's different and honest. She knows about the mess I left behind, and for the first time, I don't feel embarrassed talking about it. I thought cutting ties would feel heavier, but it doesn't. It feels like pulling out a splinter that had been festering for years. The last message I got from them was 2 weeks ago. My brother wrote, "You've ruined everything. Hope it was worth it." I didn't reply. My mom sent a picture of the house, a subtle attempt to trigger nostalgia. The caption said, "It's still your home if you want it." It's not. It's not anymore. Word got around to the rest of the extended family. A few relatives reached out to say they were proud of me. One of my uncles even told me, "You did what I never had the guts to do." I didn't expect that, but it made one thing clear. This wasn't just about my immediate family. It was about a whole system of taking a tradition of obligation disguised as love. As for my parents, they've gone quiet again, probably hoping that time will reset things. I'll eventually feel nostalgic and forget the rock through my car window, the manipulation, and the way they laughed at the real group table. I won't forget. But here's the truth. I don't hate them, just don't trust them. And that's the real difference. Started building a life that doesn't depend on their approval, their presence, or their money-hungry traditions. Stopped checking their social media, stopped wondering if they're okay, and stopped pretending they will ever truly apologize. But I am still keeping notes because something tells me this story isn't over. They'll try something again, maybe not soon, maybe not directly. But I know them too well to believe they've truly stopped scheming. So if that day comes, I'll be here and I'll write again. 'Cause if there's one thing they should have learned by now, it's that I never start fights. I just finish them. The update. I didn't think there would be another update. 2 months had passed since I walked away, and I had accepted that this was my new life. A quiet apartment, peaceful mornings, and no guilt hidden in text messages. I had stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. I thought the story was over. Then my phone rang one Friday afternoon. It was my uncle, the one who had always stayed neutral enough to be trusted, even when everyone else was taking shots at me, or pretending not to see it. We hadn't spoken since I moved. I thought he was just checking in, but after some small talk, he changed the subject. He said, "I think you should know what's been going on back home." I didn't say anything. I just listened. And for the first time in a long time, what I heard didn't make me angry. Apparently, that after I cut them off, things got serious, and they got serious fast. All the money that kept them comfortable, all the quiet support I provided in the background, vanished overnight, and there was no one else left to pick up the pieces. So they had to do it themselves. To my dad, the same man who once said, "Manual labor is for people who didn't try hard enough," now has a second job at a local auto repair shop. He works full shifts on weekends, with no bragging or drama, just work. My mom stopped her weekly brunches with her friends and canceled her salon appointments. She started using coupons again, cooked more, and handled the bills herself. She even sold the SUV that I had helped them finance last year. They didn't just downgrade their lifestyle. They downgraded their egos. But what truly surprised me was what my uncle told me about my brother. The same brother who used to mock me for being too serious about money now works night shifts at McDonald's near his campus. He splits rent with roommates, packs his lunch, and hasn't asked my parents for a single dollar in over a month. He told my uncle that he feels guilty about how everything played out and that working for the first time is humbling. That part stopped me cold. But my uncle wasn't finished. He said that my parents, on their own and without being prompted, had told him something they felt I needed to hear. They said, "We know we ruined something with Olivia. We know it's not fixable right away, but if she ever decides to come home, we won't pretend anymore. We'll ask for her forgiveness, and this time we'll mean it." I didn't reply for a long time. I just sat there staring at the wall. It wasn't the apology that got to me, or even the effort. It was the idea that maybe, just maybe, they had finally stopped talking and started learning. That night, I went out and walked along the water's edge, my hands in my jacket pockets. I thought about everything that had happened, from the restaurant, to the rock through my window, to cutting them off completely. I replayed it all, not in anger or regret, but to understand how far things had gone and how far they had come since. I don't trust words anymore. I trust patterns. And for once, the pattern seems different. I'm not going back to live there, and I'm not rushing into warm hugs and holiday dinners as if none of this ever happened. But I think I will visit, not to forgive them yet, but to see who they are without me. If they really meant what they said, and they truly plan to ask for forgiveness, then I'll be ready to hear it. And if not, I'll be ready to leave again. I'll write another update after that visit, because if this story has taught me anything, it's that endings can change. A few weeks later, I drove back for the first time. Didn't go to the house, I wasn't ready for that, but met my uncle for lunch at the same diner we used to go to when I was a kid. Same corner booth, same scratched up table, and the coffee was refilled without asking. He was there before me, sipping black coffee and reading what looked like insurance paperwork. When he saw me, he stood up and gave me a real hug, not the polite kind, but the kind where someone's arms stay around you for a half-second longer than you expect. He didn't push me to see them, didn't guilt-trip me or preach. He just said, "They're trying, Olivia. They really are." I nodded, but I didn't make any promises that evening. I drove by the house. I didn't stop, just circled the block once. The lights were on. The front yard looked a little less maintained than usual. One of the hedges was dying. The SUV was gone, replaced by an older sedan with mismatched hubcaps. I parked 2 streets over and walked to a nearby park. I sat on the same bench where I used to read when I was 17, dreaming about college. I stayed there until it got dark. Then I left. No confrontation, no grand gesture, just a presence. That weekend, I got a message from my mom. It was a photo of the same dying hedge, now freshly trimmed and watered. No caption. Didn't fix anything, but it also wasn't manipulation. That was new. The following week, I received a handwritten letter from my dad. Not typed, not an email, not even a text. It was messy and awkward, with smudged ink and a few scratched out lines. But it said one thing I hadn't heard from him in years. "I'm sorry." He didn't blame me, ask for money, or even ask me to visit. He just said he was sorry. That did something to me. It wasn't a full repair, but it was a crack in the wall I had built. I haven't replied yet, not because I'm trying to punish them, but because I'm still watching the pattern. I've learned to be slow with forgiveness. You don't just hand it out like candy because someone says the right words once. You observe, you wait, you see who they are when they think you're not coming back. It's been a few more weeks now. My phone doesn't light up like it used to. The texts and calls have stopped. The silence feels different. Now, not like abandonment, but like respect. My cousin Ashley still checks in. She even came to visit me in my new city. We walked by the river, laughed about college memories, and shared dessert at a small bakery. "You seem lighter," she said. I've started writing again, not just these reflections, but actual fiction stories with characters who take their power back. I think I needed this distance to find my voice again. My new life isn't perfect, but it's mine, all mine. I decorate my home the way I want. I buy groceries I actually enjoy. I sleep better. I don't flinch when my phone buzzes. Sometimes I still. Think about the old days, the family dinners before things got complicated, the backyard birthdays, the movie nights on Fridays. But I don't let nostalgia fool me. It was never always good. There were cracks long before the walls fell down, and I've stopped pretending those cracks were just quirks. They were warnings. Now I live with intention, okay? I give when I want to, not when I'm pressured. Answer calls. I choose to, not ones I feel obligated to. I spend time with people who make me feel safe, not people who drain me and call it love. I don't know if I'll ever completely go back. But I do know this. If they continue to grow, I'll meet them halfway, slowly, carefully. And if they regress, I'll walk away again without an explanation, without theatrics. Because I finally understand that I don't need a family that only loves me when I'm useful. I need people who love me even when I say no. And now that I've learned to say it, I'll never unlearn it. This isn't a story of revenge, it's a story of clarity. And if you've ever felt like a walking ATM or a support beam for a crumbling legacy that was never built for you, then maybe it's your story too. I'm Olivia.